Warren Buffett did an interview with CNBC. And I know he's a weasel, we all know. But you know, weasels have information. They're very good at what they do. And we're watching because we want some information. So we're going to go over some Jerome Powell. He talked about some crypto, banking crisis, failures, things of that nature. You know what? What's coming down the pike? What does he actually think? Where are his fears?
What do you think of the job the Fed is doing right now?
I do not think I could run the Fed as well as Jay Powell's run. I think Jay Powell has been a terrific, and part of the job, well, look at Paul Volcker.
I was looking at that side view of him. He's very tight to himself. Now, he's geriatric. He looks like he's got a lot of arthritis. So it's like, he's very tight, but it could be just from the arthritis. So we're going to have to look at other cues from him and ignore the arthritic.
Back in the 1980s, I mean, people were sending him, you know, I mean, he needed Secret Service protection and everything else. But in the end, he felt his responsibility was to do the right thing at the Fed, and he didn't give a damn about what anybody wrote about him or anything else. And I think that he's one of my heroes, and I think he's one of Jay Powell's heroes. And I think Jay Powell did the same thing actually in March of 2020 when we went into the pandemic. I think at the annual meeting that year, I said, you know, that.
Now, he's trying to be open when he's talking about Powell. You see him raise his arms up, but he's so stiff, and it's starting to really look arthritic in a lot of it, especially in the spine, the shoulders, the hips, hands, obviously, because we can actually see the joints. So all of this we're going to have to ignore. So when we see someone who's going against their arthritic pain to actually be open, we can say that he truly is happy about Powell.
He was a hero and he is a hero, and you have to act, and you have to act on insufficient information, and you've got an ultimate responsibility to the American public. And it doesn't mean you can stop recessions. It doesn't mean that you can turn bad loans into good loans or anything else. But it does mean that you got to keep the system working. And the system came close to stopping. If you read a book called $1 Trillion Triage, you can get it on a day-by-day account. And people don't know how close it was. And Jay Powell did not call for studies or position papers and, you know, lengthy debate and everything. You just don't do it. You act. And that's what Paul Volcker did. And I thank heavens, you know, Jay Powell was there. I mean, you could have gotten a very different result in March of 2020 after the pandemic broke out.
I think listening to him speak about this whole Volcker and Powell together and how they're pretty much melded pretty much tells you, in his opinion, and why he's so happy with Powell, where these interest rates are going. That is your clue.
Some of the banks that you've sold include USB, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, PNC. Should we think that they're banks that aren't well run because you've sold them? Or?
No. But I do think, I did think that banking could get.
So he's starting to stutter here. So the ones you don't sell are run good, and the ones you do sell are run badly. It's like, well, and because we have to ignore a lot of the stiffness from the geriatric, we follow other things. The fact that he's really gated, you can see that in his brain search about how he's speaking. He's stuttering a lot to try and give himself some time to think up this answer to rebut what she has said, which suggests that her comment was right on the nose.
In a lot of trouble just because of the kind of things that they did, and that I didn't like the banking business as well as I did before.
Why'd you keep Bank of America?
But I would love to have owned a bank. If Berkshire could have owned 100% of a bank, we'd love to own it. Well, we can't do it under the bank holding company.
Would you like to be a bank holding company?
Well, that means we can't do all the other things we do. So we got taken out of that in 1970. We had just bought a bank in 1969, and we had to get rid of it in 10 years. And there's, I don't argue against regulation of banks, believe me. But that particular option has been taken away from Berkshire, and I think it's probably a good idea to taking it away from corporate managements generally.
Why'd you keep Bank of America?
Pardon me?
Why did you keep Bank of America?
They invited, I invited myself in many years earlier, and they made a very decent deal for us, and I like Brian Moynihan.
Now, he's being very careful with this answer. He started down the path, and you verbally hear it. A, they, and then he had to, okay, I can't really say that. No, I invited myself in. And he's going very slow in his speaking. He also is being very gated. And he actually went back on this question. It's like, ew. So it would suggest to me there's something apparently very important about keeping Bank of America.
And enormously. And I just don't want to, I don't want to sell it.
And then he smiles on that when you see a little bit of lift in the face as, I just don't want to sell it. That was his, I'm done. That's the final answer. That doesn't say any of the reasons on why I want the bank. I'm just going to give in to emotion. I just don't want to sell it. But anyways, let's move on.
Are we through the banking crisis at this point?
Well, we're not through with bank failures, but we are through the depositor. The depositors haven't had a crisis. The owners of banks may have lost a hell of a lot of money. The people who bought the debt of the holding company, they may lose a lot of money. People can lose a lot of money, but the depositors aren't. And so you don't need to turn a dumb decision by managers into a panicking the whole citizenry of the United States about something they don't need to be panicked about. I mean, it is really, it's like we've.
So now we're seeing more of a tenseness here, and we're seeing it more in the face because that's more of the expression coming through, and we don't have to worry about the arthritis. The bobbing up and down, but they're very short bobs up and downs of his head, talking about the citizenry, that we're all being riled up to run. Well, yeah, that's because we know we're not the ones that's looked after.
Thinking that I just don't know why you do it with people. We set up the FDIC to relieve the worry of people. And initially, it wasn't the same institution it is now.
You're saying on one hand.
So he grabs it. We set up the FDIC, and he's grabbing it, which gives you pretty much an insight on where this man is at as far as his abilities in our economy. He literally holds on to that. He says how it goes. And you see he brought it to himself. Technically, it can't fully fund everyone's deposits, but we got it. Stop taking your money out of the bank. And he's extremely flustered and stressed. That's why you get these short bobs up and downs and the song a little bit. And he's got those tight jerks. This stresses him.
If you like it, please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.
If you'd like to learn more about analysing body language, there is a video course available on Mandy's website for Gold subscribers.